One of the first things I noticed that was interesting about a cannabis company was how they insured the value associated with flower and cannabis products. Because historically, you could insure a crop through a crop insurance form,
Right.
but the value of a cannabis plant blows the actuarial tables. It doesn't work.
We are back with another episode of Meet Unshackled, meeting the really cool, interesting people behind the cool companies, ancillary companies, brands, distributors, retail, cultivation. This is a place to learn who's who in the cannabis industry and how it works. So I have an exciting guest from my hometown in Tucson, Arizona. That's my hometown. Yeah, I was actually born there. He is I don't know if it's official title, but it's Mike McGee from Crest Insurance, and he's my kind of guy because we get this a lot at Meta. Crest was interested in cannabis, and he likes cannabis, so he grabbed the book of business, and now here he is, like years later. But we're going to introduce you to him and let him tell him his story. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. So you're from Tucson, you said?
I've been in Tucson since 1996, but I love it. Where were you born in Tucson?
I was born in a house, actually.
Oh.
As a house. It happened during one of my blackouts, so I can't remember.
No, I started in risk management insurance at Tucson Medical Center, and a lot of folks have been born. They delivered about 6,500 babies a year while we were there.
All right.
And that's where I cut my teeth in risk and insurance.
Well, you got to tell me what the difference is between, well, we'll get to it, because I don't understand the difference between risk management and insurance. But let's first talk about how did you get into the cannabis industry? Because I know you like cannabis, which is good.
Well, I started in risk management and healthcare. We were designing and managing insurance programs for a large hospital system in Tucson. And over the course of my college career and in life in general, I sort of gravitated toward cannabis as my mood-altering substance, as my
Imagine
mother would say. And when an opportunity arose during COVID to leave the current job and come over to Crest as an insurance broker, I jumped on it, took it, and have focused on cannabis to grow my book of business.
So you do the cannabis book of business for Crest Insurance. Is there just one of you, or there?
No. We have over 50 producing agents across 4 states now. We're in California, Colorado, Arizona, Wyoming, and now most recently in Nevada.
And I know you do a bunch of cannabis, different like dispensaries, cultivators, kind of stuff. I forgot different elements, different enterprises and supply chain.
Yes,
Not
sir.
sure what that's called.
Yes, sir.
But so do you have to share that with the other guys too?
It's sort of you eat what you kill to a degree. And a lot of the folks they weren't motivated to prospect and focus on the cannabis companies. And I said, heck, I'll do it.
Right. And one of the reasons we're featuring you is because you have experience working with risk management, insurance. You're going to get to the difference between the two of them with different companies. So that, anecdotal experience, that hands-on experience helps you help more.
Well, that's been my experience so far. In a nutshell, risk management is to manage the risks to your business so that should the worst case scenario happen, you're ready and you're able to keep the doors open and continuing in business without it being fatal. That's the way I've always sort of defined risk management. Insurance is just the first step in that. It's not the only step.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should probably get risk management around here because we just have insurance. That's what I was thinking about that. I was worried about us for a second. But let's go back to what makes it unique. How does the cannabis sector space make insurance risk management unique? What are those things that are happening out there?
Well, one of the first things I noticed that was interesting about a cannabis company was how they insured the value associated with flower and cannabis products. Because historically, you could insure a crop through a crop insurance form,
right?
But the value of a cannabis plant blows the actuarial tables. It doesn't work. So over the course of probably trial and error, certain insurance companies that want to work in the cannabis space started using property insurance to cover cannabis. Because up till now, very little cannabis is grown outside. Most of it's grown indoors.
Right.
And we can cover those values, significant values in some cases, using property insurance. We don't have to use crop insurance like we would back in like a typical farming sort of scenario.
So how's that worked out? And let me tell you a quick story, because I always bring this up with insurance. This was 2013. I don't even remember who the insurance company was, but my brother's operation, they had a big cultivation. The whole room fried because the thing's lights stayed on for 24 hours straight, something like that. And it was like $140,000 loss. And the insurance company wouldn't cover it. And there was a big fight, big brouhaha, but everything was really immature 10 years ago.
Right.
How does it work now?
Well, in my experience, you need your insurance and your insurance company to be a partner. And that's where a good agent and a good insurance broker comes in, is that you are very upfront with the exposures and the underwriter at the beginning. And then when you do have a claim, it's very clear what is and is not covered. And if it's not covered, can we work with you to get it covered? That's the way I've approached it. And that's the way it's the way large healthcare and hospitals approached insurance, because it's not if they get sued, it's when.
Right.
And how do we craft the coverage to meet the needs of the industry? And that's why I sort of gravitated toward cannabis. It's an agent or an industry in its infancy. And over time, the carriers are going to understand what the risks are. For example, I was approached by a cannabis company from Michigan that could not get coverage for a consumption lounge.
Okay.
And when we discussed it with the underwriters, I was like, it's really not as risky as it sounds.
It's nice of you to tell them that.
And this, that, and the other thing.
Wink,
and they
wink.
went,
Just kidding. No,
and
it's not as risky.
It just simply isn't. And they were underwriting it and rating the risk as it is like a bar risk, like a liquor liability risk.
Right.
It's not the same thing.
No.
And once you were able to discuss it with an underwriter and they understood it, they were able to cover it and be comfortable covering it, and at a reasonable cost. It wasn't exorbitant.
Yeah, it's wild. There's less gun violence, there's less fights, there's less DUIs, there's less fatal traffic accidents.
I believe there's evidence out right now that shows in the states that have legalized, there's a significant reduction in DUIs.
Right. And so how is that traditionally done? I mean, so insurance companies, underwriters, have giant databases that this bar, it's a bar, so potentially there could be this kind of DUI and this kind of liability. And so then they know, because of all the years of experience. And in cannabis, we don't have that experiance.
You kind of hit it on the nut. Yeah, exactly. And
I'm a pretty sharp guy.
You hit it right on the head.
But tell us how it works.
Yeah, over the years, the various types of risks, liquor liability in bars, product liability. Product liability is a big one. There simply isn't been the litigation yet around product liability.
Hold your thought for a second and keep going. To all those people out there in the cannabis industry, behave well, because they're data tracking on us, and we need to keep those insurance costs down. So don't screw up, whether you're a retailer, cultivator, consumption lounge, delivery, distributor. Don't screw up, because that will mean higher insurance rates in the future.
Couldn't agree more. Perfect.
Okay, sorry, but keep going.
And the industry is new and growing, no pun intended, but over the course of the time, certain carriers are going to get more familiar with the risks and exposures of cannabis-specific industries.
And certain dudes.
Like delivery, for example. Some carriers are concerned that there's a lot of cash in a vehicle. There could be a lot of cannabis in a vehicle. And you need to get them comfortable with that there are controls in place to limit the amount of cash in vehicles and limit the amount of cannabis being delivered at any one time. That's called loss control. And that's part of the risk management process, that you identify where bad things can happen to you, fires in greenhouses, floods in greenhouses, regulatory issues with whatever entity, ordinances, governmental agencies that could affect keeping the doors open around a dispensary. There's a myriad of things that could impact your business. Can we put together a plan that can transfer some of that risk to an insurance company? That's risk financing, and then put risk controls in place that we can monitor. And then you put a plan in place, monitor it, and then make changes. That's risk management in a nutshell.
So how big is Crest?
Crest was our founder, Cody Ritchie, purchased Crest from a bank back in 2010. And we've been growing ever since. We're in the top 100 of independent agencies in the country.
Right.
We have, I think, now 17 locations, about 300 employees, and we're headquartered in Tucson.
So where you guys, so you're kind of a go-between between the companies
Correct.
And the underwriters.
So an insurance agent or insurance broker, we go out, we meet with you, we figure out your needs from an insurance and risk management standpoint, and then we go out to the carriers and find out which ones can do it. One, can they do it? B, and how much is it going to cost?
Right.
And then we manage that for you as your agent.
And you're providing a great service because you're educating them how it works. Don't be afraid. Charge these guys less. This is too expensive.
Workers' compensation is a critical insurance coverage that a lot of people are fuzzy on in general. It's can be very confusing. Some of the metrics, the fact that it's audited every year at the end of policy periods, and required by law to have. So we have experts in all fields in Crest. We work with account managers and account executives that manage the day-to-day stuff, and then we have folks that have had 30 plus years of experience just in workers' comp, or just in professional liability, or just in aviation.
You know, I always have that crop experience because that's kind of weird. This unusual value of a crop that can collapse. But I'm trying to think about the other nuances that are unique to cannabis. You know, because a lot of people perceive there to be, especially a lot of these underwriters, more dangerous things going on. But I'm just thinking, what are the dangers and what are the risks that are unique to cannabis?
In extracts, in processing scenarios.
Yes.
What do you call it? Processing?
Yeah, butane manufacturing.
If you got pressurized vessels, if you're using noxious chemicals, various
big tanks
that can explode.
Right.
You can get stuff in your eyes. You get it on your hands. I counsel a lot of cannabis companies. If you can do the the less hazardous processes, I'm not super familiar with it. I think there's one with CO2.
Yeah,
I think there's one with cold
I can go through
water.
all the extraction methods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do that if you can.
Right.
If you're not, you're going to have much higher workers' comp insurance rates because it's a more hazardous activity.
Right.
And then should things go poorly or badly, you can ruin a lot more of your product.
I'm trying to think. I'm sure it hasn't happened to you, but there have been extraction accidents, like one or two, in the industry over the last 10 years. I'd like to see the insurance claims on those.
Honest, I don't think there's a heck of a lot of insurance claim history in the cannabis industry in general.
Right. Yeah.
We're still too new.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks I've come across are operating without insurance, which for obvious reasons, I never recommend it. It's a lot of some of insurance is required by law to have, workers' comp being the primary one.
Right.
And insurance can save your butt from a litigation standpoint. For most liabilities, the reason you want to have insurance is for attorneys. They'll cover costs associated with attorneys.
So like a typical retailer, cannabis retailer that has cannabis in the store, they'll have workman's comp insurance. They'll have property.
You need general liability insurance, and your typical scenario is a slip and fall. Somebody comes in, they slip and fall, they break something.
Destiny, do not slip and do not fall.
Auto insurance.
Survival of the fittest around here.
Business auto insurance, and one of the biggest holes that
Business auto insurance. Yeah, okay.
It's higher limits. Usually $1 million limit versus personal autos have lower limits in general. But a lot of companies, cannabis or not, are missing a very critical type of insurance called hired and non-owned auto, which can, it gets very technical, but a company can have liability associated.
What was that again?
Hired and non-owned auto.
Hired
and non-owned.
And non-owned.
Yeah, so if you have company-owned vehicles, that's one thing. But if you send folks out in their personal car on company business and they get an accident, you have liability as the business owner. Or if you rent a vehicle at a conference and you're doing stuff and things and you get in an accident, some of the nightmare ones I've been involved, pedestrians and alcohol, and it's on company time, and so the company is liable. And if you don't have some of this type of insurance in place, you don't have coverage.
Who invented insurance?
I believe it was shipping folks from the 1600s. Lloyd's of London was an original one, and that term underwriter, they would sign off under the line on the risk, and it was around piracy and shipping on boats. And to this day at Lloyd's of London, when they lose a ship or a ship sinks, they still ring a bell and put a bring out a big quill and write it down in the book.
Really?
But it was all around, piracy and back in those times of days when they were shipping a lot of stuff on boats.
It's such a wonderful service. It's so important. It makes you feel safer. It makes you feel paranoid too, but it also makes you feel safer about handling your business.
When you work with a good insurance agent, broker, or a risk manager, we're supposed to do the worrying for you. We're a worst case scenario. We sit around, we think about the worst possible case that can happen, and are we prepared in the event of?
Right.
Can we keep the doors open, keep everybody employed, and keep on going?
Wasn't that a movie like What About Polly or something?
I believe so. Yeah, you won't eat the peanuts out of the nut jar on the bar because he's afraid of getting.
So, is there a coalition of insurance agents who do cannabis?
I believe there are. I'm a member of a online Cannabis Risk Management Association, which are similar-minded
we met
folks.
them, didn't we, Destiny?
I believe so.
Yeah, those are nice guys.
Yeah.
So you're a member of that
Yeah,
group?
I was just, doing their online education and keeping up with my continuing education as a risk manager. Everything changes. Risks always change. Cyber insurance right now is something that I'm counseling folks on. It's almost a must-have now. If you do any business online or get online invoices, you got to have cyber insurance nowadays because some of the claims that come through that aren't covered on other policies.
Wow, I often reflect on my previous lives when I talk about things, and I don't remember insurance like back around 200 BC, 200 AD. Nope. So I was trying to figure out at what point in time it was invented. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, the shipping was the major thing, and then over time it sort of started to morph. It's transferring some of your risk for a fee, that's the premium,
right,
to another company.
So I'm going to commit you to this. You probably do this already, but now I'm going to throw you under the bus. You're willing to go out and give everybody a free assessment?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I'll come to your business. I'll visit. I'll write a report for you. I'll point out all the stuff and things that I think you need to do or not do. In fact, we have a director of risk services who his name is Chester Henderson. He was in the Navy SEALs for 27 years. And
is Chester like cannabis too?
We're working on him.
Okay.
We're working on them. But we have a number of veterans that work at Crest, and as I'm sure you're more than well aware, cannabis and other CBD-related products are pretty popular amongst a lot of veterans.
That's funny as you said that. It's like, Mike, you have no idea what I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But I mean that like not in the negative sense, like in a no. So you guys come out and you'll do an assessment. There's absolutely no reason anybody who's watching this show who's connected to an enterprise in any way. Tell their boss, tell your friend, do it yourself. If you're the owner, call Mike. Say, Mike, come on out. I know that you've been dealing with dispensaries and lounges and delivery and ancillary, auxiliary, cultivations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Trying to go through all of them. There's a bunch now. It's a lot. I love all that because there's a lot to do.
Good risk management is proactive. So,
yeah, and then you sit down with them and you can go through your anecdotal experience and the other elements of the cannabis industry and stuff. Boom, you can nail down. And awesome.
There's things we can do, and we can workers' comp specifically. There's a part of a business's workers' comp coverage called an experience modification, and it's a number that is included in the premium calculation. And if we can, there are things that we can do. There's stuff that we can put in place to prevent injuries and prevent claims, which lower that number and save you money in the end. So being proactive and having a good insurance agent as part of your team will pay for itself in the end.
Yeah, and the initial consultation is free.
Oh yeah, 100% free.
Should we do that for Mita? So
absolutely.
Yeah, he's going to find a lot of things that we need to pay for around here, and we just can't afford them. We need more members. Help us pay for that. So Destiny has workman's comp. Just kidding. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
We have limited liability.
Understood.
So we're not.
Waivers. Sign some waivers.
So, yes. Everyone signs waivers at Mita. Yeah, so that's fantastic. I love that. And I love your commitment to the cannabis industry. And I love the fact that somebody should call you, have lunch with you, go over everything, have breakfast dinner, go over everything that they're doing.
I'll review your current coverages for you, and I'll tell you when you're fine. If you're exactly where you're supposed to be with the right carrier you're supposed to be, that's great.
Well, you don't need to tell me that I'm not fine. I know I'm not, but certainly, and that's the point. And it's brilliant that you're specializing in this silo vertical. What do you call it?
I call it's a niche industry in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I work with I work with large nonprofits. I work with auto dealers. I got a couple of contractors. I have a very large professional services client that works in all 50 states. So I'm very experienced with a myriad of risks.
Have you had to deal with that issue yet, where there's a crop failure or something stayed on for 24 hours? Like
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
there's certain things we can get covered, and this is where I want to get when a certain industry, when any business gets to a certain size, you can start negotiating certain coverages with carriers. Like I want to cover somebody leaving the lights on all night and frying the crop, where through a sort of more standardized policy probably isn't covered.
Right.
Property insurance is your typical fires and storm impacting the building. But when in healthcare world, we worked with a company once, and at the hospital I was at, we were one of the first guinea pigs for regulatory liability coverage. It was sleep insurance for our general counsel. They were very worried about federal fines for billing issues. It's super technical and wonky, but we were able to find coverage that didn't exist before. And my ultimate goal is to bring that sort of level of customization to the cannabis space when things start to get regulatory complex, or you get very complex, large multi-state operations. Can I sit down with a carrier and craft insurance to get you covered in the way that you want to be covered? That's my ultimate goal.
And you guys deal with all the state-to-state nuances.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm licensed in most states. I can get licensed in any state I need to be licensed in. Crest is very supportive of us in that we have licensing folks that help us get that squared away. And then we have a large support staff that helps support the clients.
Any interesting nuances you see states requiring for insurance for cannabis?
Nothing specific in insurance. It's just there's this big question mark now with the rescheduling to Schedule 3. What's that going to mean in general? I know that Arizona, compared to a lot of the other states, is one of the better examples of regulation with the Department of Health.
Right.
I know
That's what they say, but
I know everybody does it different. I've also heard very good things about the Michigan structure, the way they do it in Michigan. I've heard Oklahoma was a little bit of a learning curve. I think they're trying to right the ship there a little bit with some of the issues they had with, I think, the number of licenses
there. You. It just, on a personal note, it becomes hard for me to communicate with others because they always say, like, best, worst, right, wrong, and it's always a matter of perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm like saying, like, for example, you know, are the regulations working in Arizona? Well, if you believe they are, if you're a free market libertarian, hell no. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If you're a communist, socialist, big brother type, no as well.
Yep.
You know, so you're somewhere in between. And if you're in that right spot that you're happy with, they work. So all those kind of things, right and best and stuff. You know,
but there, at least in healthcare world, there were insurance coverages we could put in place to cover fines, even when you're doing everything you are supposed to do and you got all your ducks in a row, you're checking all the boxes. Oh, dang, you still get hit with a fine.
Right.
We might be able to get that covered.
No, I like you. We're gonna hang out more, and yeah, I mean, if you go, I'd love to hear more. I want to learn more about what's happening with all the nuances and stuff. So as you meet different enterprises and different people that want to have their coverage reviews, see if you can get me in on the meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
So that I can listen and learn. Yep. I'm constantly learning, but I don't get I'm not privy to everything. So I'm very excited to be working with you in the future. And you're always coming to the meetas, which is great.
I'm coming always. We're going to have a table at the one coming up at the Monarch next week. I believe a week from today.
Yep.
I will be bringing Ashley Moreno, who is my counterpart on employee benefits. So I technically am a property casualty guy. So that's liability and property insurance. She can do employee benefits for as small a company as 2 people. So that's health insurance and then all the associated bells and whistles, including life insurance too.
And last thing, who generally, because, you know, Metas, we do from a bud tender with a dream to an owner with an exit strategy, and we try to teach people to network at Meta, which is find somebody from Trulieve or the Mint or the hundreds of other enterprises that are out there. And when you meet them, then ask them, who does payroll? Who does buying of pesticides? Who does brand things? So who are you looking for?
I'm looking to connect with the decision maker on the insurance program.
And
Many
generally,
times
who is that?
That can be your chief financial officer. A lot of times I'm working with an HR director or a general counsel, and sometimes the business owner.
Right. And Mita, that would be me. So, but don't tell anyone. I'm just kidding.
No.
But, yeah, so that's great. So, we look forward to helping you connect with the right people. And if you know anyone out there in your organization or you're interested yourself, please reach out to him. It's Eminem, like, the real Slim Shady. You get that a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Unfortunately, I do.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I love that song, though.
It's a good song.
So he's the real Mike. He's the real Mike. Anyways, so it's great having you. And we look forward to hanging out with you and incorporating you into the MENA network. And it's a pleasure getting to know you. And how do people get in touch with you?
CrestINS.com. We have a cannabis landing page. You can put in your information and we'll get in touch with you immediately, if not sooner.
It's Crest
INS.
What's
Insurance.
INS?
Insurance.
And that's the cannabis landing page.
CRESTINS.com.
Right.
And then there's a drop-down menu to get it right to the cannabis page.
Okay, but that's not going to go to one of those other guys. I want it to go to you.
No, it'll go to me.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Well, make sure you
Understood.
get that.
Thank you.
I'm not recommending them. I'm recommending you.
Good to go.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Yes. I mean, I'm nothing against Crest. I'm just saying, you are a unique individual.
I got funneled a prospect called. I learned about moon rocks.
Yes.
And it was a new type of cannabis product.
Yes.
Recently.
No. And those new product liability.
Yep. They might need some.
We could dive into that in the next one. Get some product liability stories. Collect some stories.
I will get some
and come back.
I'll come back. I will definitely come back with sort of a 101 claims management.
Let's just get like the nastiest, dirtiest, ugliest stuff. Collect them from your friends because I know everything goes right in your world. Okay. So, but other ones, get me a whole bunch of stories, and we're going to tell those stories on another Meet Unshackled. Okay.
Understood.
I mean, we don't want those stories to happen, but if they do, we want to tell them here.
And you want to have good insurance in place when it does.
Yes. All right. So get in touch with Mike. Check out your insurance needs, and we'll see you on the next Meet Unshackled. Thanks for being here.
All right.